Anthony sometimes likes to sit and stare at his bundle of Emmy Awards. Unfortunately, it's through the glass of the pawn shop. You're listening to Rothman and Ice.
We got eyeballs on practice, and we got a good pair. He's the 2016 John Mackey Award winner, is the nation's top tight end. Local star at Pick North. Went to that team up north and certainly had an awesome career, and now he's even better. Success.
He's even better on the air.
And I tried to predict during the break if he ever was involved with a quarterback, whether there's any controversy or any competition. We'll get it from him now. Jake Butt is with us, BTN analyst. Well done, my man. Thanks for making time for us.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Just actually, I'm headed to the airport here, head back to Chicago. So that wraps up like my first part of the camp tour. But excited to break down some Ohio State football with you. All
right, real quickly, when you were playing at Michigan, I just wrote down in the break, Gardner, Rudock, Spate. Was there ever competition? Do you ever remember going into a season at Michigan where you weren't sure who your guy was going to be?
Yeah, especially my senior year. And I remember it was a big deal because I could have left after my junior year for the NFL. And as I was making that decision, I called my offensive coordinator, Jed Fish. He's now the head coach of Washington. And I remember asking him, well, like, Coach, hey, man, like, I don't know who the quarterback's going to be. And he had to sell me on it was Wilton Spate, but maybe it was John Rudock or Shane Morris. So, yeah, there's definitely some challenges with that. I mean, one of the noticeable ones as a skill position is, you go through the offseason, there's only reps. If I'm the starting tight end, I want those reps with my starting quarterback, especially if it's a new starter. For Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, Max Clare, Jelani Thurman, those guys are getting half the reps with each guy all off season. Now it's just a small thing, but it's things like that add up.
Jake, so the local media here, I got to see Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of practice last week, and then it's been closed for us. You've got a fresh set of eyes on what's been going on with the Buckeyes after the BTN Tour today. I came away from the first week thinking this is why Ryan Day is saying that there's a competition at quarterback. I can see how you can make that case, why it would be, how you could win with Julian Sayin or Lincoln Kienholz, and then they called this week moving week. Has there been movement for you? Do you buy into the notion that this could go either way, or what was your impression of that critical position for the Bucs today?
Yeah, well, I'll preface this before we get into everything as we see one day.
Right.
And this was apparently yesterday was a really tough and physical practice. They were back in full pads again today. So that's the context. Well, all I really saw was two talented guys. I think that they could go either way, and with the players around them and what they have up front, I think Ohio State's going to be fine. I think they're going to be a playoff team regardless. But it's more of a question of, what type of player does Ryan want under center? Because, they did the team inside the team run drills today. Julian would hand the ball off and he'd carry out a fake like he would keep the read option, but he never kept it. Lincoln, meanwhile, kept it on a number of occasions, and you could see this big, strong, physical athlete. So I would imagine at some point, I really wouldn't be surprised if there's some packages for Lincoln to have the option to pull it or run, regardless of whether he's the starter or not.
No, that's a good feel. And this may be a wild question to ask you. Talk with Jake Butt, color analyst for the Big Ten Network. Is there a chance in Ryan Day's mind, Brian Hartline's mind, that one of these guys could be more ready for the opener, but they may feel like there's a ceiling in the other guy and they want him to have this game no matter what?
That's a good question. And again, define ceiling. I think Julian is probably just a more natural, pure passer. I felt he was much more accurate and tactical with his throws today. The ball location, putting the ball on the right shoulder, different throw tempos and layering of his throws. Whereas Lincoln, he's just a bigger, stronger athlete. I think he's capable of doing more outside of just throwing the football. So it depends on, what you want this offense to be and how you would evaluate the ceiling of each player and how it factors into the offense.
Jake, with your view of the tight end position and covering the Big Ten the way you have, I know that you've got probably a lot better idea of what Max Clare could do for Ohio State than than maybe we've even got a handle on in Columbus quite yet. What is it about him that flashes for you, and how could that be different maybe for the way Ohio State's used the tight end the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think well, actually, maybe not just him, but Max is the most talented tight end I can remember at Ohio State in a really, really long time. He reminds me, he's got a little bit of Colston Loveland to his game in the sense like he's really a wide receiver in a tight end's body. He just is such a natural mover and knows how to separate, soft hands. He's just a wide receiver. But Jelani Thurman is a big beast to handle too. Like in one-on-ones today, Caleb Downs had great coverage on him, but the ball was thrown 10 feet in the air and Jelani just reached up and plucked it. There's just nothing Caleb could do. I'll say this though, like this is what I came away is you're trying to attack defenses and opponents, whether it's Penn State or Oregon or whoever, whether it's Texas, teams have to play split safety because of Jeremiah and Carnell. They have to have safety help to help their corners because of the Buckeye wide receivers, which means you have Max Clare working the middle of the field against a linebacker. No linebacker is going to be able to cover him. That's just not going to work. On side of that, so maybe you bring in extra defensive backs, nickel, dime package. Well, the Buckeye offensive line looks big and strong and capable, so they should be able to run the ball. So all these pieces work together to where it's really going to be hard, if not impossible, to slow down the offense.
You get a sense over there that while they have certainly a lot to be proud of last year and that run that they made, that the identity of this team is going to be drastically different. You got 2 new coordinators at the controls. You're going to have a new quarterback. What's your view of the challenge of trying to climb the mountain again with this team?
The challenge is, what's that last part? The challenge is to what?
Just to try to climb the mountain with this team. Last year had a lot, obviously the losing streak to Michigan is ongoing, but we're in an expanded era, Jake, as you know, and they proved it once that they could come from way back and win it all. But what's the challenge for this team, do you think?
I think that we've talked about it, not knowing your quarterback at this point, and neither guy has experience. Like Will Howard at least had game experience. Not knowing your quarterback and introducing 2 new coordinators is another piece of this. And I think an observation at practices is when you go through practice, some coaches, they pre-script the practice plays. So going into practice, they already know what play calls are going to be called throughout the day. Well, I noticed Ryan Day, there was a ton of unscripted periods today, and I think that signals to me that he wants Hartline and Patricia to get used to calling plays and adjusting on the fly. So I think that's going to benefit them. There's no challenge from a talent standpoint. There just isn't. I think winning last year gets that monkey off days back and Ohio State's back. They can play freely. It's just the natural challenges of the season that always come when you're trying to pursue a conference title and a national title. That'll never be easy.
So, Jake, you're heading back to the airport, going to Chicago. The BTN Tour rolls along. Are you doing all 18 campuses?
No, I'm not doing the West Coast teams, and there's a few I'm missing. I'm not doing Indiana and Purdue, but for the most part, yeah, I'm doing a good amount.
Because it seems like just across the board, the way that people are talking about this league and the talent, and you guys BTN was out there with Penn State and talking about all the talent that's there, and they've got a veteran team. They're following the Michigan blueprint from a couple of years ago, Ohio State a year ago. Just like, and I saw you out in Vegas. It just feels like there is a level of competition at the top of this league that, everyone wants to leap to the SEC and the strength of their schedule. Getting through this league feels like more of a gauntlet every single year.
100%. And I think that conversation and narrative is changing. That's backwards looking. And I think it's fair for the SEC to be proud of the past. And they were the kings of college football, but that was back when all the talent was really concentrated at Alabama and Georgia and LSU. Now I think the talent has been dispersed. Caleb Downs left Alabama. Julian Sayin left Alabama to come to Ohio State. That the talent has been dispersed. The coaching's been elevated. I think the meat of the conference, like a team like Nebraska, they looked good. I think they're ready to take a step. And then another thing for the Big Ten is, we're known as a defensive conference. I think we're going to see the middle teams take a major step forward at the quarterback position. Iowa, we saw their offense improve last year. They go out and get Mark Gronowski, I believe, from South Dakota. That's a huge upgrade. I mean, they haven't had talented quarterback at that position. What can that do for that program? Washington's dangerous. I think this Indiana roster is even better than last year. So what does that mean? Illinois returns a ton of players. So the health and the meat of this conference, I don't see how anyone could say that it's a guarantee that the SEC is the better conference at this point. In fact, I'd lean the Big Ten.
Thanks, man. Appreciate your time. I know you had a very busy day. This was nice of you. I can't wait to reach out again during the season. Thanks, Jake. Be well. Safe travel.
Anytime, guys. Thank you.